Okay, ready to go for webinar number two. Thank you for being here. We're going to talk, or I'm going to talk about the importance of 8 critical elements, insights, stages in the process. So these are the 8 that we focus on, that every business that wants to become different and position itself in an interesting way needs to consider. Obviously, there's lots of ways of doing this. This is a method that really, really works for us. It works really effectively, quickly. Very quickly about the team. If you haven't been in the first webinar, this is a quick recap. We're a collection of very experienced marketers and partners. We've developed a method that takes you from positioning through to go-to-market, through to growth execution for marketing, all channels. Today is the second webinar. The first webinar was an introduction to the process. This goes into a bit more detail at each of the stages, so you can take each of these bits of information and work with it on your own. The 8 that we will cover are listed here. We talk about where you're going and the vision and your objectives. We talk about the segments and personas. That's pretty standard stuff. Where it gets a little bit more bespoke and interesting, perhaps, is in the real problems that we're aiming to solve. So let me just go change my position here so you can see it. So the real problems that the buyers are trying to solve. We've then got alternatives and workarounds. This is looking at the competition in the market. We're going to talk about the new thing that sets you apart. So the product, service, innovation that you have. We're going to talk about the use cases and value drivers. So specifically, how do you solve problems for people? Then all of that comes together into value propositions and a creative, provocative point of view, which allows you to say things in the market, which attracts interest. And then we'll talk about buying journeys and sales drivers. Now, this is the positioning part. If you didn't get it because it was a bit smaller earlier, this is the positioning part of our process. We have go-to-market detailed stage, and then we have a growth automation stage, which is marketing automation. So today we're going to go through these 8. We'll take about 40 minutes. We're then going to talk about the next webinar after this, which is a deep dive into value propositions. So why do we do what we're doing? Well, mostly because marketing has got a pretty bad rap within B2B. A lot of businesses grow sales through teams, through outbound sales, picking up the phone, etc. Marketing tends to be seen as a bit woolly, a bit nice to have. It's not needed. Yet these are the problems that people come to us with, and these are things that when you just focus on tactics, which is marketing, kind of SEO, paid search, etc., and channels, then you don't solve these fundamental problems. And that's why marketing gets a bad rap. How do you solve these fundamental problems? Well, that's what we'll talk about today. These problems, for example, we're better, but buyers stick to the incumbents. That's not a channels or a tactics problem. That's a psychology and a belief problem for buyers. How can we stand out from the competition? We're vanilla, we're category generic. That's a big problem. How can we be more efficient? Well, that's a big issue with making sure that your messaging works really powerfully. And then how can we deliver on promises, whether it be Series A or private equity promises or anyone that's kind of backed your business? We need growth. How do we ensure that we deliver that? Well, you need to get the systems, the people, processes, and platforms in place. And the last P, if you like, is positioning. So if you can get the positioning right, and then the people, processes, and platforms, you've got a chance of driving growth. So these are the things that customers come to us with, the problems they come to us with. What we know is that only insights, positioning, and testing of all those tactics and channels will get you to a sense of confidence around growth. So what we do, we're a consulting group. We help businesses create a marketing unfair advantage in their pursuit of growth. What that means is that they're in a position to confidently talk to their partners, their teams, their internal stakeholders, and they know that they can deliver growth through their activity. We're helping companies that are B2B, business to business, and they are normally at the growth stage. So they've already got a product, it's in marketing, they're needing to solidify what they're doing. And they have some different types of backers, from private equity through to private backers through to venture. What does a marketing unfair advantage look like? Well, it's where you can acquire customers at a ridiculously low customer acquisition cost versus competitors, or that you are more well-known and you get partners and talent coming to you, or that you're more successful in growing your existing customers because you've got all of the systems in place. So it's a growth story, and people will invest based on that. This is an example of Manu, who's a partner of ours in venture, and he talks about investing in Revolut, the fintech business, because their customer acquisition cost was so much lower than their competitors. What makes us a little different is that we have this a lot of experience in marketing strategy, 20 odd years in strategy and in doing campaigns and building brands and designing brands and doing technology businesses and building products and digital products. But we've also got venture experience, commercial experience, and we're on the investment committee of investment companies. So we understand what they're looking for too. We work with lots of different companies, mostly at the growth stage, some of them a little larger. So what we want to talk about is all the inputs that you need in order to deliver a growth engine through marketing. The inputs are always insight based. Most organizations, when you look at their commercial plans, they have good objectives, commercial objectives based on some insight into the category, but that's where the insight tends to end. They'll also have a product insight, but that doesn't tend to go into the marketing. So you have these kind of pockets of insights, but no structured way of using insight. So in our method, we go and find a lot of insight from lots of sources. We'll take you through now. We look at the creative and strategic leaps that will need to create a difference in the market. Then we build a go-to-market plan. Then we build a growth machine with our partners. What the benefit is over 12 months or so, and this isn't a quick win. There's no such thing, obviously. You can test a few tactics, but that still takes time. You need to create an engine of kind of confidence around the business. And our design partner, Square Dot, talks about swagger. So after you've worked with us and you've instigated all of the ideas and it's all in market, after 12 months of having consistent communication, after you've established it for the first 6 months, then you start getting this confidence and this swagger. And this swagger helps our clients become bigger fishes in their ponds. And they also end up closing their biggest deals after a period of time. Now, again, no quick fixes, but without this, you don't get the gravitas that successful businesses all have. And you'll end up looking at competitors going, well, why are they getting so much more success than we are? And that's because of this confidence that they have in their communications. So how do we do this? We're going to go through some thinking, but the core of this is that marketing should be run like product development. It should be based on these insights, and it should be based on tests. And a lot of the time, marketing is based on assumption and hope and the whim of a marketing director or a CEO, but no real substantiation in a engineering sense. So we approach this as engineering, and we hope to build structures that are very durable. So strategic observations and strategic recommendations that are based on deep, validated insight. And the overall goal here is to de-risk the investment in marketing. And that's all that we're trying to do. De-risk the investment in marketing so that you can grow a business in a more confident way. So let's go into these 8 essential elements. If, as a reminder, we've got visions, goals, segments, problem, workaround, etc. you can read. I want to give you a kind of context of how it fits together. So we have a method here that looks at all of these insights. So they're all color-coded for usefulness because we're going to use these insights through this conveyor belt process. The insights are grouped. So you have some of these main ones, such as the vision and the new thing. The real problem and the jobs, the pains and the gains are all kind of bundled together as well. So let me explain how it works. We have a conveyor belt whereby we capture these insights and we understand these insights by each segment. And then each segment has its own value proposition. And as you go through the process, you end up, I should get my cursor here, you end up going through the process, and the positioning is the collection of all of these insights plus some creative thinking. That then goes into a go-to-market plan, and then all of these insights go into micro messaging through a funnel. So I'll go through the process as to how it works, or I went through it in the first webinar, so I won't go through the detail, but we will be going through each of these elements. So first, vision and goals. The important thing about a vision in the company, and there's a lot of conversation about vision, mission, big, hairy, audacious goal, all the kind of good ways of framing it. And all of that is valid. But the simplest way of looking at it is, how does your vision for your company overlap with the vision that the prospects want to see? So this is really about your vision in context with the buyer. And it has to be within the context of the market and the buyer. So we'll work with clients on understanding how relevant their vision is in relationship to the insights that we gather. So we sometimes start with a vision, but then we come back again and have a look at it later once we've got more relevant insights. The other big thing that impacts how a buyer sees the journey that you're going on is how credible you are. Now, what you tend to find is that a number of factors in B2B are evaluated at the same time by buyers. And they're looking for someone to go on a journey with. And they want to be on that journey for 3 to 5 years. That's a procurement cycle. And they'll be looking at, okay, how credible are all of these elements? How credible are the team and their experience and their knowledge? And you can see these interact in each of these areas. So the team credibility delivers on attraction credibility, and it comes from their insights that they have. So if you look at kind of how these elements kind of work together, the team and its experience delivers often the early traction and the products. That then delivers on the business credibility. But the business credibility is founded, if you like, not just on the traction, but on how sustainable the insights are. Do they really understand? Does the team really understand the problem and solution? So all of these factors kind of influence each other. Now, this is a proprietary model that we use that is quite useful in auditing where the business is at. And sometimes you end up finding that a team is highly credible when it comes to, say, insights, but is not credible from a business perspective. And these are earlier stage businesses, but actually, even in later stage businesses and growth stage businesses, the same kind of thing applies. People look at it and go, well, do I want to work with these people? Do I believe in their insights as being distinctive and differentiated? Oops. So this is a model to use, and it's worth considering. And trust, as per the quotes here on the left, is fundamental. All of this is about going, can I trust these people? Can I with my custom? The next is about goals. Now, there's lots in each of these stages, and I'm not going to go into the crazy detail of all of this activity and all of the frameworks we use. But a simple way of thinking about goals, and we've got commercial objectives, we've got unit economics. There's a number of things factoring in to the decision making about goals and where to point marketing. But if we look at targets and goals, this is a ladder of proof that investors tend to use. And it doesn't really matter what stage you're at. You're going to need to have evidence at each of these stages of the ladder to be credible with your private equity investor, with your internal stakeholders, etc. The red the goals or the objectives in red, or KPIs, sorry, in red, are customer based KPIs. So you can see that as a business grows, at least 50% of its KPIs are going to be based on customer activity. Now, what one would want to look at is go, okay, well, where on the ladder are we? Do we need to increase our scalable acquisition? Are we at good unit economics at the moment? If we're not, what can we do? Should we be increasing our lifetime value? All of these are very specific objectives. And what we'd like to do with the marketing activities come to one important metric to shift. Obviously, others will be impacted, but the worst thing you can do is get involved with vanity metrics of marketing. What we really want is these kind of fundamental metrics, and how do you work backwards from these fundamental metrics? And this is kind of a way of looking at goals. What do we need to deliver by when? And what's obviously impacting it? And where are we at in that journey? So there's a few points on goals to share. That's a whole subject in itself, goal setting, but this is a useful framework. The second point, which again has got plenty of evidence online to explore, is the idea of segments and personas. And segments, the way we look at it is a segment can be a group of buyers who are very similar, whereas a persona is the individual. So it could be a job title, or it could be somebody that the type of psychographic, the type of person you're seeking to target. Now, we're going to look in a number of places for insight for this, but broadly, for the segments and the personas, you end up looking across the category, who's buying what, where, when. You end up looking across businesses, what types of businesses and why, and the firmographics. And then you end up looking at the individual buyers and the users and all their problems. Insights there are very personal, and that's where you get to the personas. So before then, you're in the broader segments. Always, there's a group of influencers. And so this is an example from our worksheets that we use, interactive whiteboards that we use, but we always map out the different buyers and their roles, and we understand how they influence each other. And then we look at an objective for each and a strategy for each. So each persona within a segment will have a strategy attached to them. When you go that granular, you get into a lot of information about the individual. And this is the kind of output. You might have a very simple persona kind of say spreadsheet that allows you to map all the different types of needs in that buying group, that buying cohort. And then you'll look at the jobs, pains and gains of each persona, and you'll look at the real people, and you'll look at their LinkedIn, and you'll map their LinkedIn, and you'll start looking at Apollo data and other places to try to find these segments and find these personas within them. And then you use the insights of the jobs, pains and gains, and this is the color coding here, where you kind of say, okay, what do we want to say to them at each stage of their buying journey? Understanding what they need at each stage of their buying journey gives you very clear messaging briefs. So you get into a place where the messaging is really, really, really dictated by the personas, jobs, pains and gains, and we'll go into that in more detail, at each stage of their buying journey. So you can see how these things all come together. The output is very detailed. The process can be quite arduous, but it all comes from talking to the customers as well as understanding how they interact from the data. So we'll go into kind of how we do that, some of that stuff. Let's look at the insights that we need to create those personas and create the depth. We've talked about these fundamental insights. We've covered off the vision, and we're going to start looking at the real problem that the segments and the personas have. Within that, you have this idea of jobs, pains and gains, and I just want to kind of explore that a little bit now. So jobs to be done is a principle that's been around in product development for 20, 30 years. And it's very useful in marketing because you're then going to create insights that product development people can use. So jobs to be done is the idea that someone's going to hire a product to get a job done. So if you're being hired to get a job done, what is it? What is the job that the buyer or the hirer is wanting to get done? We're going to need to understand what that is. We're going to look at the pains they're trying to avoid, their fears, their worries. We're going to be looking at the gains that they're seeking, their goals, where they're heading. what they're being measured against. And we're going to look at, well, what are their alternatives? And those alternatives, we'll come into a bit more detail, don't tend to just be competitors. They could be something a lot more than that. So in the process of understanding jobs, pains and gains, we always have to kind of think about the category and where the category is at, because the jobs, pains and gains will be relevant to the maturity of the market. So here's a framework that we use a lot. We're trying to understand, so what you've got here is the idea that a market matures. And as the market matures, different problems emerge. So the nascent markets, where there isn't a particularly established problem, and there aren't many solutions, take, say, electric cars in their early stage, then you're trying to understand what's the problem. Is the problem a battery issue? Is it a technical problem? Is it a consumer adoption problem? All of those things can be true. So the problem is poorly understood, and so therefore the competition are experimenting with features and approaches. Just to explain this model, and then I'll take it on to how it applies to buyers. When you then, when the market matures a little bit, you tend to go, okay, well, this is a way of solving the problem, and we might call that emerging. And when markets are emerging, then they are fast maturing, and they little benefits of the problem being solved pop up. So if you take electric cars, I'd argue the market is not mature, it's in an emerging phase. There are benefits that pop up of solving the problem. So they've solved, say, battery or relatively battery power. They've solved maybe production and how to make the products look good, which was a consumer adoption problem before. They've looked at the size of the battery, etc. So the problem can be solved. You can do electric cars, but the competition is over specific benefits, such as, say, reliability or range or the future proofing of charging station. Do you go with Tesla because it's got the best charging stations? So you've got all these kind of niche benefits popping up. As the markets mature further, we see that solutions become commoditized, everything is electric. Now you're going to have really niche segments. So this is the best electric performance car, this is the best electric SUV, etc. At the moment, at an emerging phase for electric cars, for example, those experiments are all just happening, and there's car makers going bust all the time. So you can see within this space that a buyer's jobs to be done will depend on where the market is at. Now, this is an example. I'm going to see if this works. This is an example of a problem being defined in quite a mature market. So they're really understanding the jobs to be done is where people are trying to select in a mature market, in this instance, a quieter diesel engine. It's a very niche problem. So I'll see if this plays. Hopefully it does.
Here's a little song for anyone who's ever hated, in the key of grrr. Can hate be good? Can hate be great? Can hate be good? Can hate be great? Can hate be something we don't hate? We'd like to know why it is so that certain diesels must be slow and thwack and thrum and plong and hum and clatter clat. Hate something, change something. Hate something, change something, make something better. Oh, isn't it just bliss when a diesel goes like this? Sing it like you hate it. Hate something, change something. Hate something, change something, make something better.
So this is a great example of a mature market. If we go back to our model, where solutions have become commoditized and everybody's fighting over a specific, perhaps niche, or it could be just the top of the emerging where actually they're looking for some specific benefit of something that's well known already. Either way, it's very tight and they understand what the real problem is. It's noisy diesels. Now, it's easy to then create some kind of work around that. Let's go back. And what we need to get to is understanding in the buyer's mind, what is their big problem that they're seeking to get solved? What are the jobs they're trying to get done to solve that problem? What are the gains and pains they're trying to avoid or create? And what's the context? What's the workarounds? We'll come on to that a bit more within the market. How mature is the market? Where is it at? This is all stuff that we collect when we produce a job card, which is the way that you work within lean product development as well. You need to do stakeholder interviews and you need to understand the buying journey. So that takes us on to the buying journey. And this is a very simple kind of view of the buying journey. You're going to be in a place where you want to understand the journey from, say, not knowing anything, step one, to knowing a little bit, to comparison, to making decisions. Now, there's classic models, attention, interest, desire, conviction, etc. There's lots of ways of looking at it, but you need to work out what those steps are. And at each of those steps, there's going to be a trigger as to why people enter the market, and they won't necessarily enter at the beginning. They might jump into something around, solving a problem without knowing what their problem is. But either way, there'll be actions they'll be doing along a certain period of time. Always there's emotions, and you can plot the emotions during that journey. You can understand the buying cohort, who's involved, and you can think about at every stage, what questions are they asking. And what that information gives you, if you turn it on its side, is a funnel. And flip that the other way, you have a buying journey and you have a sales funnel. Now, this insight is your fundamental insight to build your funnel. Within that context, you still need to think, well, what else are they looking for? And if you go back to the insights, the workarounds are the last bit here. What we tend to find is the workarounds and alternatives are all dependent on what we've just discussed, which is the buyer's journey and the market maturity. This is a model by Steve Blank, who's heavily involved in the lean and agile process within product development and startup strategy. He talks about the fact that a whole bunch of customers won't know what their problem is. They won't be aware of their problem. They won't even be looking for a solution because they're not aware. Others are actively looking for a solution. Some have assembled a solution out of parts, and if you're lucky, they've got a budget. Now, in mature markets, say IT consulting, then the CTO comes into the market and they've got a budget. In immature markets, where, as we've said before, this is emerging, you're not quite sure, they may not have a budget. There may not be money set aside to solve this problem because this problem itself is not defined. So this is about us pulling these things apart. Now, once you understand where people's heads are at, you can start looking at the competitors and you can start looking at their alternatives. Now, alternatives could be they're using spreadsheets, or they're using email, or they're using interns. They could be using anything. It's an easy life when it's competitors. Some of the time, it's this myriad of other things. If it is competitors, it's quite fun to kind of have battle cards and understand how you're going to win versus the competitors. I've just got a little illustration of this, which is quite cute. I won't play all of it, but it's a good way of demonstrating that one product really understands its competitive set and really can use that insight to compete for the buying budgets by showing how the competitors are inadequate. And we'll come back to that in a minute.
What's up?
Hi, Jira. We brought you here today to let you know that we made the business decision to switch to ClickUp. Your performance has been decreasing over the last few quarters. There's no innovation, no new features, poor customer support, and there have been several complaints for years.
But I just have my way of operating.
I know, and we really appreciate everything that you've done, but we just can't be productive with you on the team. And we gave consideration to the fee hikes, but then there was the server issue, and now you're telling us that you don't have the speed to work with our new projects, and we can't proceed.
Come on. It's not that bad.
Well, we need more features and you charge us for add-ons. Our non-dev team wants to work in a different way and yet you force everyone to comply with your way only. Yes, and when we want to share data in a new way, you just flat out refuse. And when we want to integrate new tools, you...
So you get the idea. So it's a lovely way of illustrating that there's competitors and there's alternatives that people are using. So what we're looking to do here is to find the spaces where in the competitor set and in the alternatives, which is spreadsheets and email and interns and other ways of getting the problem done, getting the problem solved, then we're looking for the space, and we call it a market opportunity. And a market opportunity is a way of framing the market. So we end up saying, okay, well, let's reframe the market as, say, immature, whereas we're a more mature product, or we're the next stage or the next evolution of the product. Or let's look at the strengths of competitors, but let's make those weaknesses. They're so big, could be a strength, but because they're so big, their customer service is poor. And then the last piece is to go, well, like ClickUp was doing as a project management software, saying, well, actually, we understand what Jira is doing and it's too slow. So our value is in speed and in agility, for example. So it's about understanding the market and pulling it apart. That's all well and good, but we need to understand, therefore, what's the new thing we're offering. So if we go back to our collection here, the product new thing stands on its own as a input that the business brings to the market, only useful if framed if the market is framed in a slightly different way. So this new thing is this new approach, and we always look at it within the context then of what does the buyer want and what's the market opportunity, and we look at it through four lenses. The first is the tech. So what's the unique approach and why? And that's related to the core insight, which is the fourth here, which is, well, what's the unique view or the founding insight that the tech is based on? Then the tech is brought to life with design, and it delivers an experience. And you can start to see how these three things work with the insight at the heart. The benefits come about because of these elements, the tech experience. And it all depends on who we're pointing it at, because obviously the product, will be targeted at a specific use case, but that use case might have changed, it might develop. So really understanding who it's pointed at is important. Now, if you think about who it's pointed at and what those people are trying to do with your new product, your new thing, what we tend to see is there's always a perception gap. So customers will come in and go, well, we think we've got this problem, and from which you need to have empathy and new insights to reframe that problem for them. But there's a perception gap between the problem or the issue they're dealing with, and if you go back to Steve Blank's pyramid, they may not be clear about their problem, and the transformation that they're seeking. So all they're looking to do is to be in a different place, achieve something completely different through using your technology or service. How you solve that conundrum is actually what you end up selling. Most businesses spend all their time talking about what, feature, or our view of the world, or look at our clever IP, or whatever it is. They don't talk about the how when it comes to the customer solving their problems. And to get over this perception gap, you need to talk in detail about how. So we'll come on to that in another webinar, but the depth and the importance of how can't be overstated. Now, what all of this comes through together with is this idea: you take all of these insights, so the pains, the gains, you look at the jobs, you look at the market opportunity, and you come to a new thing, which is what's valuable and newsworthy. A new thing is newsworthy in the idea of the customer. And often that's a creative thing. And there's a nice quote from Steve Jobs, which is about creativity is just connecting things. So you're finding ways of pulling things together in new ways. And framing your service or framing your product in it with a fresh insight is the process that we go through. And that often unlocks a lot of energy and a lot of innovation, because product people can start to see what they're doing in context with the market in a lot more depth and clarity, which stimulates more innovation and more product ideas. So we've got this new thing, and we'll go into some examples of how this comes together in a minute. But what we're going to be seeking to do is understand use cases, and then we're going to understand, okay, well, how do we create value based on these use cases? Now, a simple illustration would be, and I'm just going to, again, not play all of this, but Slack did quite a good job when it launched in kind of talking about its use cases. And this was marketing through use case. There wasn't a fancy brand idea at the top. It was saying, we make things simpler. Here are the use cases. This is how you're going to use us. I'll play some of these and then I'll break it down.
So 6 months ago, I get an email from Stuart Butterfield who wants to talk about making a video for his new thing, Slack. It would change the way teams communicate.
Change the way teams communicate.
I told him my company runs entirely on email and Dropbox, and we were doing just fine.
Yeah, I guess we had a system. I would email with Adam and text with Shady.
JP and I would G-chat.
And I would mostly hold my meetings in the utility closet, like 11 a.m.
And I was new, so I didn't talk so much.
This wasn't sustainable if I wanted my company to grow, and something had to change. So yeah, we tried Slack.
Slack lets us do all our communication in one place. It's like combining multiple forms of messaging and file sharing into one app. Adam's pretty much in love with it.
You make channels in Slack, which is perfect for discussing specific topics and groups, depending on who needs to be in on the conversation.
Let's try one a little less goofy.
Copy that.
One thing I like is that we can send all kinds of documents right in the app. You can just drag and drop.
Slack integrates with Dropbox, which is amazing because we use Dropbox for everything.
Slack supports lots of other integrations too. Everything from Asana, Google Hangouts, Jira, Papertrail, Pingdom, Pivotal Tracker.
A link to an audio player like SoundCloud extends inline, so listening to it couldn't be easier.
AppSignal, Bitbucket, Bugsnag, BuildBar.
So, it's a nice example of a creative way of delivering a ton of use scenarios, use cases. Now, if you actually break that down a little bit, then you come to themes of benefits. So take chatting in a group. The workaround for that would have been email and WhatsApp and SMS, etc. The features are, well, they've mentioned them already in the video, channels and subgroups and notifications and threads. The benefit is that you can catch up on a topic really quickly and you get notified. The value is that actually I can save time with the communication on a particular topic. So the macro theme of that value is saving time. Now, this is how you'd unpick value from features. And you might then use saving time and speed as a creative prompt to think about positioning. Another example would be integrating Trello within Slack, which is a task management platform. You can interact with Trello in a very intuitive way within Slack. The benefit of that is that you can stay in flow, and that the value, is that you stay in flow. And the theme is that your productivity can kind of increase. So you're staying in one place, you're getting it done quicker, your productivity increases. So another route you could go down is talking about productivity in a creative brief. Now, what you will end up doing is maybe having 4, 5, 6 themes, and then you'll see if you can bundle those together, and you can really then understand the difference between features and value. Once you have done all of this work, you start collecting it together into a template and then into a creative, provocative point of view, and we talk about that. So the template of gathering this together is from a lot of value proposition work that's been done with Strategizer before, and this is adopted from this work. This is us taking each of the insights, the new thing, the jobs, the pains, the gains, the alternatives, and putting that into a template. So our new thing helps this persona who want to get this job done by removing this pain and increasing this gain, unlike this alternative. Now, that's an example of a very functional way of collecting everything together. And what that does is it delivers a very functional positioning statement. So you can see very clearly that we do this to remove this problem, to get this job done, and deliver this benefit. And you can play with this order, and you can play with it in different ways. Talk about the product benefit first, or the pain first, or the audience first, or whatever. But the point is, this is a very functional collection. The benefit of this is that functional statement is that there's no hyperbole. There's nothing there that says we're just the best at this or better at that. What you get is a understanding of what the product does for who in the market. That alone can be massively liberating, but it also can sound a little bit perhaps about stuff you already know. Capturing it all and agreeing it is the process of alignment of the teams, and this is a really, really important point. The more you can get aligned, obviously, around this kind of statement, the less wiggle room there is for people reinventing things, which is often the biggest hurdle in the positioning process or the marketing process. What happens now is you've got a very simple base from which to really get innovative. So this is where creativity can kind of get dialed up. There's lots of approaches to positioning, and these are some. I mean, you can add more, but these are the main ones. So people like to have, for example, the idea of saying, okay, well, this is an incumbent market with a new leader. And in this column here, we're saying this is a more mature market. We've talked about the maturity, take electric cars. The buyer is going, surely there's a better way, or is there a better way? Even if it doesn't think there might be a better way, if you start proposing anything in a mature market, they'll go, is this better? The inputs then you need to kind of have as a business, and will find, is a new take on this established problem. You sell it and put it into market in a disruptive way, or a challenger way, or a fun way, or a silly way, or an expertise way, or being the inventor of something new and exciting. But it's within an established market. So really, you're just saying, look, we're the new leader. Examples of that would be, electric cars from Tesla. They kind of looked at the established market, which was growing, or say a maturing market, and they did it and said, we can do it better. And they did it by style and design and just fun stuff. Shopify took the idea of this complexity of creating an e-commerce store and said, it's super simple, just drag and drop, click, and you're off. And Slack, we've just seen, took a whole ton of communication methods which weren't broken and just said, look, there's an more efficient way. So this method of positioning is always to say, look at the incumbents, they're pretty rubbish, look at our better way. Now, another route is by saying, actually, we're for a new niche. So again, perhaps within a mature market or an emerging market. And what we're saying is that there is a new niche out there who are underserved. And that niche can be any niche. From, in the example here, we've got gaming, so community for gamers would be Discord or WeWork. If you look at the really boring offices, WeWork said, let's do cool offices for a new generation. So in that example, you've got the question of the niche that they're saying, is this for people like me? Am I going to be happy here? You need to understand that community, and you need to work with that community. So your approach to marketing is to work with the community. Now, a much lauded third route is a new category. And there was a book called Play Bigger, and there's a whole bunch of conversations around category design. Now, we've been in this space for quite a while, and it has an absolute place, but it's quite an unusual place, as in it's quite unusual to find the businesses that can really reinvent a category. However, when you do find it, and their data suggests those businesses, if they can really define the category, can become the leaders of this new emerging category. There's lots of examples in the work that they've done, but it's not for everybody. The important point here is to say, well, in a new category, whatever that is, the buyers will go, well, why would I? So what's broken? Which means that you need new insights and a totally new product approach, not just being a bit cooler for a new generation. That's not category design. You want to have a totally new approach, and you sell the reason why. You sell the problem. So in this instance, you've got an iPad as a totally new approach. Obviously, it was bigger mobile phone, but what they're trying to say is, well, the first question is, well, why would I? And they have to say, well, actually, it's this extraordinary entertainment, and you can do all this creative work, and you've got these apps, it's all on the go, and it's a different experience. So they have to sell the use cases and the scenarios as to where traditional laptops and mobiles kind of fail. The other example would be HubSpot. They created a new language around inbound marketing, which is really just marketing through content, but they've created a new space to say, instead of it's being CRM, it's this new attitude. It's not really about just reaching out to people or funnels. It's about creating a whole world of content that drives leads to you. Now, you could argue that that's a new category. You could also argue perhaps that it's just a new leader of a certain segment. But I think where the category leaders kind of really succeed is they go all in. They go all in on the new vision. And there's lots and lots of examples of these kind of companies. So this is part of the process. So have an explore. When you're in this space, you just need to have an explore to see what feels natural. Once you've got that area, then you need to develop, okay, well, what's our provocative point of view? And you need to stand out within that. So you need to be standing out as a new leader or to your new niche or whatever. Now, thinking about that area, and this is coming on to the end of this now, we're always looking to be essential, urgent, and surprising. This is, if you like, a recipe for standing out. So becoming essential is that you absolutely solve a problem very, very well. Urgent is you've got to get it done now. And this is a major problem with buying life cycles and the journeys that people take. There's no urgency. There's no burning platform. This is where we need to find the urgency. The last is surprising. And this is where the people go, huh? Oh, really? Wow. Okay. I hadn't thought of it like that. So it's useful if you can coin, for example, a new category idea, because people look at it in a different way. But if it's just you playing with a few words and pretending to invent a category, it's not going to be credible. And it's certainly not going to instill any urgency. So coming up with new insights that actually are a new take on something kind of helps create surprise. The reason we want to be provocative, the reason we want to be surprising is we've got to be remembered. Most buyers are not in market. So what we're looking to be doing is becoming memorable. So there's the know you and like you phase of any buying journey. Do they know you? Can they remember you? Do they like your energy, your attitude, your way of doing things? And this is absolutely something that is fundamental in good communications. And you'll see this in PR. To be newsworthy is to be essential, urgent, and surprising. You've got to basically establish the problem, and you've got to tell the story of the problem and the drama and the tension and the urgency of the issue, whether it be you've got to wear masks or you've got to vote in a certain way, or having empathy for a certain drama and tension in the story, like the one in Britney Spears. So if you can be really deep about the problem and understand that problem through other people's views, then it becomes urgent, it becomes surprising, it becomes essential for the reader or the buyer. In the case of even Britney Spears, it was all about her fans, and it was about the longevity of the challenge and blah 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 blah. So we've done this for a few businesses. If you take an example of a financial data business, they've got this company CPRES has got such quality data in private market deals. These are the deals done within venture capital groups or within private equity groups, that they have unique insight that no one else has. So we basically said, look, if you don't have CPRES, if you're not using CPRES for your modeling and for your financial planning, you don't know. And those without CPRES are guessing. And to be that black and white, you guys are guessing, i.e. making it up. Whereas you guys over there using CPRES data have insight that no one else has, so you know. That gives you a very interesting creative platform to start kind of being divisive and to create that energy and that tension and that urgency. Oh, crikey, we need to get this data because we've been shown as guessing, as making stuff up. Another example within cybersecurity. This is a company that's invented a new way of doing monitoring of what they call attack surfaces, which basically means vulnerabilities. So we're saying, well, actually, we're losing the battle with hackers because all the methods that our rivals are using are predictable. They're based on open source technology. This is a scandal. We've developed a new approach which is unpredictable. So you're introducing a tension there that says everybody else is predictable because it's based on open source. We're unpredictable, and unpredictable means that the hackers can't work out what we're doing, so we can find more things more easily, more vulnerabilities more effectively. So suddenly there's an urgency. Oh my God, are we using predictable tools? Are we using predictable open source? What is our existing tools? We're not just saying we're better, we're saying that you guys are wrong. So those are examples of being a bit extreme in the market. This is a fun one. And I think this is a great communication in saying, actually, if you're using other tools, you don't know where your clicks are coming from. You don't know. Only with Adobe do you know. Now, you can debate whether or not that's true, but it's a very, very strong communication. It leads to a very fun communication.
Peter, come take a look at this.
Mr. Daniels.
Mr. Daniels.
Look at this.
What's this? The numbers, they keep getting bigger and bigger.
The clicks are off the charts.
Yeah.
Yoshi, it's Walter. We're back.
Yes, sir.
I need more trees. More trees? I'll get you more trees.
Hey, take a look at wood pulp.
Whoa. Everything you got on wood pulp right now.
He really loves that thing.
I think that's a great example of just you take a point of view that other people don't know. I think you can dial that up and you can start to name and shame other tools, and you can start explaining why Adobe is better. None of that is there in the communication. This is just kind of establishing the key idea. Oh, sorry about that. Right, so once you've got that point of view, and once you understand how you sit versus competitors, then you need to kind of think about, well, specifically, how do you build that into communications? So we've talked about this buying journey, which is also a funnel, because if you flip it on its side, you start understanding each of the stages of the buying. So the last point we just want to make is that all of this information and all of these insights can go into a very simple framework. So this is where you use buying psychology alongside the research. So you want to understand, what are your buyers' category entry points? Where are they coming in? Are they coming in at the problem level? Are they coming in at the solution level? Are they coming in around comparison about why you? You then create content and communications at each stage. Now, this is a very simple framework we've got, which takes you through the psychology of well, what's possible? I'm aware, but what's possible? Through to why you? Through to why should I trust you? Through to what's the quick wins? And here you can see the use of the insights from, we take, talk about the pain, and we talk about the value proposition. We talk about the job you need to get done, and we talk about how the product solves that job. We talk about the job again, and we talk about why it works and how it works, and the benefits and all the pains and all the gains. So it becomes very formulaic once you've got those insights. And then you're not debating, and you're doing each of these funnels or each of these communication strands for each segment. Each segment has its own journey, or each persona, sorry, has its own journey within each segment. Each segment obviously has its own products and journey as well. So this is how it all comes together. And the category entry points is something from there's a bunch of marketing theory around how brands grow. And this is an important point. There's a couple of books called How Brands Grow. And this is an important point, that a brand is bought, any brand is bought in context with those buying situations. So understanding those triggers, obviously the search terms, things like that, but really understanding the psychology of what's attached to that trigger is really critical. And that's what we end up mapping. So those are the 8 essential elements. We've gone through everything from vision to the problems through to buying journeys. And this kind of formulaic Lego approach works really, really well for B2B businesses, and it works really quickly. And it's about an 8-week or 10-week process. That initial positioning work then goes into go-to-market plans in a really effective way, and then allows you to deliver the messaging at each stage of the buying journey in a very automated way again, using lots of testing and consistency. The next webinar we're going to do is we're going to go deep into value proposition creation, which will look at the jobs, pains, and gains again, but it will go deeper into, okay, well, how might you create it really effectively, really quickly to get everyone aligned around value propositions. So that's what we're doing. We would love you to, join again for that. If you're interested in our work, then Fergus or myself would be very, very happy to chat. But the next webinar will be the one that I'll go deeper into it, and I'll deliver some templates and other things that can be downloaded. So I hope that's useful, and we'll see you then. Thank you.